People, this is the special episode dedicated to a very great anime manga title known to many by BERSERK. Isn't that right, Kevin?
If it's not known to them as BERSERK, wasn't known to them as?
Some people call it Berserker.
Oh, yeah, they do that, even though it's not Berserker.
Yeah, so Berserk, Berserker. I think we wanted to do this episode for a long time.
Oh, I was going to say a long, long time.
And since things are happening with the series right now, which we're going to get into later, we thought it would be a nice time for us to address the anime, the manga, the games, you know, our thoughts on the whole franchise. And you know, let's see where we go with it, old boy. We're gonna try to review it somewhat unconventionally, and then we're just gonna talk about the different aspects of the whole franchise. How does that sound?
Sounds fantastic. Let's do this.
Man, where do we start with this, man? You know what? Let's start right at the beginning, man. How did you get into Berserk, and when did you even get into Berserk?
Oh, I have to kind of go into my personal history, but it ain't that long. A long time ago, you know, to me, anime was what they showed on the Sci-Fi Channel. I had no idea. You know, I just thought they were cartoons. That was all it was to me. My first love was really into anime and manga, but she tried getting me into manga for a long time without success. She eventually recommended Battle Angel Alita to me, which I fell in love with, and one of the other things she really pushed for me to check out was Berserk, and eventually I got around to checking it out. So I guess she knew me pretty well, because both of those are in my top 5 series of all time.
Okay. When was that about? You know what year that was about?
Oh, that was a long time ago. I got into Berserk actually well after we broke up, probably like 4 or 5 years ago.
2008? 2007?
Actually, before that, 2005 or 6, so even longer than that.
And it was the manga you read first, before the anime, or?
No, actually, in this case, I watched the anime first, and then I read the manga.
So, did the anime draw you in?
Most definitely, if I bothered reading the manga.
In my case, my brothers, who love anime as much as I do, were talking about this anime that has this really horrific ending. Oh, you've seen Evangelion, but you ain't seen nothing like this. The ending to this anime is so insane. Blah, blah, blah. What's it called? It's Berserk, 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 Berserk. Then every review I read about Berserk, the ending so epic, blah, 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 blah. So we're not going to spoil the ending, people. I'm just saying that was the one thing that a lot of people hear about Berserk, the ending so epic and blah, 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 blah. You have to see it.
I don't know if I call the ending epic. I mean, it's kind of way left field all of a sudden.
Well, we'll get into our opinions of the ending. We won't talk about what happens, but we'll talk about how we feel about the ending later. But I will just say that's the thing that I thought, okay, let me watch this anime, see what it's about. That was, I think that was 2004 that I watched Berserk. And yeah, it was pretty good, man. The anime on the whole, I would use the word epic. As for the ending, I'll just use the words fucked up, to be perfectly honest with you. So, but anyway, old boy, let's move on with this. Since we both watched the anime first, we're gonna just kind of, actually, all the anime and the manga are the same canon anyway. You would say the anime follows the manga pretty faithfully, right?
Very, very faithfully. I would say the anime, it changes maybe a couple small things that make the manga much more dark, but for the most part, it's exactly the same.
Okay, so if we start to, talk about the anime, the synopsis, the storyline, we can say we're talking for both of them then, the anime and the manga.
Well, I would say no, because the anime only covers one arc, and it's a very long series in the manga. It's still ongoing today.
But it's chronological, though, in the way it's told. In the
way it's told, if we talked about the anime, yeah. The anime starts out with the beginning chronologically of the story.
All right, so I'm going to say that you are the Berserk expert out of me and you. So I'm going to ask you, what is Berserk about? And give us the brief synopsis of Berserk.
Okay, if I tell you a very brief synopsis of this, it's because I'm not trying to spoil anything. I know it's going to sound really boring, but I'll explain why you should come check out this series. Okay, so the synopsis of Berserk is it follows the life of Guts, a really big, strong, muscular man who uses a big two-handed sword, and he's it's really the anime is about his life as a mercenary. Now that sounds very bland and generic, but it's a very deep, emotionally heavy gravity sort of story, and the story goes beyond that. But the anime covers his life as a mercenary. The story goes beyond that, but the anime stops there.
Okay. Let's go a little bit deeper. When you say it, all right, let me help you with this. When the anime starts, one of the, I wouldn't say confusing things is the thing this anime, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but the first episode is like the last episode of the series, of the anime series, right?
Well, it should have been the last one.
Yeah. So when they tell us, when you first watch the anime, you're kind of thrown into the end story of the anime, not the manga, the anime. I know it's confusing people, but you'll understand later. So by episode 2, the anime starts at, not at the beginning of Guts' life, but at, as you said, old boy, the beginning of him being a mercenary, yeah?
Yeah, because the story actually goes into the very beginning of life. He was born under his dead mother, who was hanged, and a group of mercenaries picked him up, and he had a hard life from there on. But the story...
The anime doesn't... Well, the anime covers that later, not at the beginning,
yeah,
though, does it?
It does cover that later, but like what you were saying, yeah, it starts out with him fairly young. It jumps back into a big flashback. That's the entire series. No spoiler.
Yeah.
The entire series is a flashback of his life as a mercenary.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, you know, we're not going to go into too much detail, but I do want to talk about some of the supporting characters as well, because Guts joins a group, a mercenary group as well. That's what the anime is basically focused on. Guts and this mercenary group called the Band of the Hawk, right?
Correct.
And let's talk a little bit about them. Who are the Band of the Hawk?
They're led by a very charismatic, I would say beautiful young man who apparently is brilliant. We'll touch on that later on, but their commander in general is this fellow named Griffith. Okay, so he has some other guys. Guts eventually becomes his right-hand man. That's not really a spoiler either. You know, it's kind of laid out to happen. But
I agree.
He has a very protective... I would say he has captains, right? It just goes from him to captain. So he has his most protective one, Casca, who's the only female member of the band. She's very talented at sword fighting.
I thought there was one more female character, though. I think there's two more female characters. Isn't there one short blonde one?
No, they're all male.
My mind. Okay, you go with it.
No, it's cool. I mean, like, in this anime in particular, only Griffith is really kind of looks like a girl, but when they're young like that, yeah, you know, you can get confused. But everybody else in the Band of the Hawk are males. There are other female characters that are important in the story, but if you're talking about the Band of the Hawk, she's the only female member. Okay, so they have a big, strong, silent guy who's even bigger and stronger than Guts named Pippin. Very silent. He doesn't really talk. He's the first guy, though, who tries to include Guts into their camaraderie and everything, though, in his own way. There is Rickert. That's the boy that you were talking about.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
He's kind of naive and idealistic, but he is, I think, one of the captains, actually. I could be wrong about that. There is... What was that guy's name? He was the leader of the thieves that joined the group when Griffiths defeated them.
I cannot remember. I think Guts nearly killed him, though, didn't he?
He almost killed him a bunch of times. They did not get along. He really served as kind of an impotent foil to Guts.
Yeah.
But I forget that guy's name. We should probably look that up.
No. Because to be honest with you, without spoiling it again, if I was to even narrow the cast down, like, you've covered all the supporting characters in my mind, not all of the Band of Hawk, but the characters you see the most, some could argue it's about Griffith, Casca, and Guts.
No, if you're talking about the more minor characters, I would say Judo, who I haven't talked about yet, is the most important out of all of them.
Okay, well, I'll ask you about that later, but let's move on with the story. So, as we keep on saying constantly, without going into spoilers, the story kind of goes through, I don't want to say the rise and the fall of the Band of the Hawks, but let's just say it goes through the journey of the Band of the Hawk.
I think it's more correct to say it goes through the journey of Griffith, because very early on you find out this is a guy who wants power. His dream is to have his own kingdom. So it follows, even though Guts is the main character, it follows his journey and his trials trying to become, I won't say king, but a lord.
Yeah. When is the anime set anyway? Because obviously this is like a war-based anime. What kind of era is this anime set in?
This is a dark medieval fantasy one. Even the anime is pretty dark.
And the anime is 25 episodes, if I'm correct. And I would say the pacing of the anime is really good.
It's pretty good. I mean, they do have episodes where you don't have any fighting at all, but, there's plenty of episodes where it's just war, just fighting, all sorts of crazy stuff.
All right. How do you feel about the animation when you watch the anime?
Well, the first thing I gotta do is, when you ask me that, I have to point out this is an older anime. It came out around the time of, like Iria, Pokemon. Actually, Pokemon's producers, I think, were also Berserk's producers, right?
Yeah, let me just get before we get crucified, let me go into my notes and see this. The anime series was made in 1997 by anime studio OLM Incorporated, a company which also has a big hand in the production of Pokemon anime to this very day. So yeah, you're exactly right.
All right, good. Feeling good. But yeah, if you ask me about that, I have to bring up a couple of things. And the first thing is, anime of the 90s, they're animated and drawn a lot differently than, stuff in the 2000s or even this decade. It's way different. But I would have to say, yeah, I think it's above average. It's pretty good. Most of the time, they do stuff pretty detailed. Once in a while...
It was probably hand-drawn, I would say.
I think the majority of it was pretty much hand-drawn.
Because nowadays, they use computers to draw a lot of anime. Not all, but a lot of anime is just done by computers. So, personally, I feel the animation is excellent, even up to today's standards. And then I was blown away, but I'm okay, not blown away, but I was impressed. Especially because it's an extremely violent anime. Extremely violent, extremely gory. And the action scenes are good. The character designs are good. The intro's very, very cool, and the outro's cool as well. So, just like you, I really liked the animation.
You say, well, you're talking about the video intro, right? You're not talking about the song, because I have one of those things you have to forgive me about. That song grew on me.
The soundtrack.
Well,
the opening theme, you mean?
Yeah, not the soundtrack overall, but just the opening theme kind of grew on me after a while.
I actually have the Berserk soundtrack, actually.
I don't know what to say.
And I do like the opening theme. And it grew on me as well. Isn't it sung in English?
Yes, it's sung in very bad English.
That's the intro, and the outro is very depressing, but I really liked it.
Yeah, it's. I think the outro fits the mood of Berserk a lot more than the intro. I think if you see the intro, you're expecting something a lot different.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. And since we're talking about the sound, man, I'm gonna assume you saw the English dub of this, right?
Yeah, actually, I did not watch the sub. This is back when I was, a youngin'. So,
what did you think of the dub?
I think the way I feel about this dub is that a lot of the main characters are voice acted above average, which not exactly something to brag about, but for watching dubbed stuff, that's good. A lot of the minor characters, or just guys who are just there for that scene or whatever, not so great.
I actually would say this is one of the best dubs out there for anime. I mean, this Cowboy Bebop. There's some dubs they took their time into getting the right guys to play the characters, and unfortunately, I don't have their names to hand right now. But like you said, I feel like especially Griffith, Guts, and Casca, they were voiced exceptionally well, and I think it carries well. I haven't watched the sub.
Oh, well, I do. I have to say something about the sub then, because I've seen the sub too.
Okay, all right, go on then.
I think
That's
that I
interesting.
think the English voice actor fits Guts way more than the Japanese one. The Japanese one's a little high pitched, and then the English one, he's actually sounds pretty masculine and everything. And he's a big guy. He's like 6'5" or something, 300 pounds.
I get that gruff feeling from Guts from listening to the voice actor, that really kind of tormented soul
Agreed.
from Guts. So, yeah, just like you said, I haven't watched the sub, so I can't make comparison, even though neither of us speak Japanese, so it's kind of funny for us to say the Japanese is not better, but in a way we can. And we can only say what we think. And I honestly thought the dub was great.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the talent. I'm just talking about matching the voice to the character. I think the English did a much better job than the Japanese subtitled version.
Okay, so believe it or not, people, we're gonna kind of wrap up the review for the anime because I'm gonna let old boy talk about the manga a bit more. We're gonna kind of merge this, and I'm gonna start by saying that the anime is based off volumes 1 to 13 of the manga, and where the anime ends is the source of a lot of people's praise and frustration for the anime, because in the way the anime ends on a cliffhanger, and if you want to find out the rest, you have to buy the manga. And I love the anime so much, and I was so eager to find out what happens afterwards. BERSERK was actually the first manga I ever bought, and I bought it up to volume 19 actually. And yeah, where the story went, so first of all, how do you feel about where they stopped the anime?
Actually, I hate to contradict you, but the first few volumes of Berserk aren't followed by the anime. It just skips ahead to like volume 4.
That's what I thought, because I did say that because I know that the anime doesn't start off with Guts' actual beginning.
You said they covered volumes 1 to something.
That's what hey, don't blame me. I'm getting my information from Wikipedia.
Well, then I get to blame you. You're not supposed to use Wikipedia.
Who am I supposed to go to if I can't go to Wikipedia?
You're supposed to go to me. I'm the expert.
Who can I believe in if I can't believe in the God that is Wikipedia?
Believe in me.
What the hell do you know? Did you buy the manga?
Yeah, actually, I own quite a few of them, but I don't own the whole thing.
Okay. All right. So I fucked up a bit. He wasn't based off the beginning of that manga, but whatever.
You could just out anyways.
Yeah, so like I said, how do you feel about where the anime actually ended? Where they decided to end the anime in terms of where the manga is as well?
Okay, this is how I feel about it in two different perspectives. The first one, I think they ended it that way because they were hoping for a second season, but I don't know how realistic that hope was. But ignoring that and looking at it as just one season, because that's what it is, that was a terrible place to end it. And if anything, they should have had the first episode after that episode because, it's kind of confusing to people. We've had a lot of debates about this, about how we feel about the series because, you start out introduced to Guts when he's the Black Swordsman, but the anime isn't about him as a Black Swordsman. It's about him as a mercenary, so it's kind of confusing to people.
So what do you think the actual method for that is? I can't wait to see how he gets to that part of his life. Is that the intention? Is that what you think they did that for?
I think their intention, this is just supposition, of course, but I think their intention was this first episode, here's Guts. He's a badass. Something really bad happened to him that gave him permanent disfigurements, but you're going to find out about that later. And then here's this whole season explaining why that happened. And then, next season, you're going to see him kick ass as the Black Swordsman, which, the second season never came. Okay. That's just a guess, but I mean, I have no idea.
Let's just quickly, because we're going to go into the manga now. We've basically covered the anime. I just want to say the anime is one of those animes which I think is great. It's a great example of great writing. I might as well commemorate the manga more than anime because that's what it derives from anyway. So it's a great anime. It's a great adaptation. I've read the manga, a lot of the manga as well. So I also know it is really faithful to the manga. And yeah, if I had to give it a rating, I would give it it's a Hall of Fame, to be honest with you. The ending is a little bit. It put a lot of people off the anime, which I understand in a way, but in another way, it's kind of wussy. But whatever. Anyway, I just feel the anime is really phenomenal, and as an anime alone, it's really great. And I actually feel like it has a wide appeal that can go into movies and other media. But I will talk about that later. But
No, I'm sure we'll talk about it in this recording, but not right now.
yeah.
The way I feel about it is also Hall of Fame. But for me, anime, I'm not a big anime guy, so that doesn't mean much. But the reason why it's a Hall of Fame for me is that there's nothing else like it. You know, there's series that have tried to be like it, but they can't do it. They can't emulate it. You know, it is what it is, and nothing else is going to be like it. It's epic. And there are other epic series out there, like Vagabond or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or Vinland Saga, but they're never going to be exactly like Berserk. They'll have their own qualities that make them special and epic, but it's a lot of animes fail, a lot of mangas fail because they try to be like Berserk, but they can't do it, the way that Berserk does it.
All right. Well, let's talk about the manga now. Now, you're the manga man. So I'm going to let you kind of go off on this a bit, but I just first want to say that a lot of people I know, like I was watching the anime with one of my mates, and when we finished it, I just had to read the story. I had to find out what happened with Guts. Is he going to get his something? And, what just happens? And the story is so radically different.
It is.
Where the anime ends, I was going with it for a while because it was more faithful to the world that it was set in. But then you start to get this really heavy fantasy element in it. And it became so fantastical, if that's a proper word I can use. It just started to throw me off. And on top of that, Guts' character, I've seen characters like being tortured or being... It just became really painful for me to read it. And without spoiling it, I just wasn't getting what I wanted from the story. And, speaking to people like you that have even read ahead of me and just asking you, has this happened? Is he found any peace or anything like that? Like, nah, it's still going on. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this manga's so long. When's it going to end? So that's how I in a nutshell, I gave up on the manga. I did. I'm sorry. I didn't like where it went. And, oh boy, I want you to talk more about the manga, especially where it kind of leaves off from where the anime stopped.
Well, if you want me to talk about the manga, remember what I was saying about the synopsis. The story is different. Like you were saying, the story is different. It's a different focus. If you want me to give a really brief synopsis of this, if you like the anime, you should check out the manga. Besides the fact that the story continues, this is what the manga is about. The manga is like we've been saying. We've been throwing around the word epic. Well, the story is an epic. It's our modern day and age epic equivalent to like an Odyssey or something. The synopsis of this story is one man struggling against a godlike figure or power. That is the synopsis of Berserk's manga. It's not the synopsis of the anime. Anime focuses a lot more on camaraderie and war and all that stuff. The anime is about Guts, and it's about him trying to get revenge for being very wronged over, like...
You mean the manga? You said anime, but you meant manga.
I said the anime is about camaraderie and war, whereas the manga is about Guts trying to get his comeuppance and give it to whoever wronged him very badly.
Yeah, you said anime again, but don't worry, it doesn't matter. Just carry on anyway.
Whatever. When you re-listen to it, I think you'll see what I was saying. Okay, so a big rift in how we see Berserk, because I still follow the manga, but why I still follow the manga is whether you watch the anime or read the manga, you're first introduced to Guts as the Black Swordsman. And if you're talking about the manga, that's like the first 3 volumes of the story, and it is very brutal and very dark. I actually almost stopped reading Berserk early on because it was just... the character was borderline unlikable for me, just how fucked up everything was is a good way to put it. But eventually something happens right before the manga's flashback where it's like, oh, he is human, really deep down inside inside of him, there's something that still makes him human, and that's really what keeps him going. In the anime, you don't really see that. You only get one episode of him as the Black Swordsman, and that's it. So
Yeah.
talking about where the anime leaves off and the manga continues, it's like I said earlier. The manga is about Guts being the Black Swordsman. So it continues on immediately, shows how he escapes the end situation of the anime and becomes the Black Swordsman, and his journey, his purpose, everything that happens, all the bad stuff that happens as a result from the ending of the anime is explained and continued on immediately from the manga. So going on more about how things become too fantastic and everything, I agree. It did. If that's not your thing, which I know it's not your thing, then it could definitely turn you off. But underlying all that, it's like I said, this is an epic. The story is about one man struggling against a godlike figure. It doesn't matter if it's sci-fi or fantasy or magical girl, whatever. That's what the story is. So if it goes through all that other stuff, for me, it's whatever. I'm interested in it because it's telling this type of story, and no other stories can really get it right.
The funny thing is, I'm listening to you, and I feel like if you read the manga from the beginning, you weren't misled, because, like you said, it starts off with the Black Swordsman. You go back to the origin, go back to the flashback, and then you go back to the Black Swordsman. So it's more natural. With the anime, I don't want to say it's false advertising, but it's the way the story goes, and the way it puts you back on track with the manga. It's got to make you feel like you're having two different, like, onions and ice cream. To me, it's like, this isn't what I was watching before. This is totally different. It's like a totally different anime, totally different story. So, but if you read the manga, I feel like you already kind of knew the tone from the beginning, and it just slightly shifted gears, and then it's gone back to the way it was before. So, would you say that's right, or would you?
I would agree. It's the way, I really don't like the way the anime ended, even though it's what happens in the story. It's just because basically you're telling something that goes one way, and all of a sudden you go the way opposite way, and you just end it right there. Whereas, obviously the manga continues on, and you also get a little bit more to see exactly Guts' hatred and everything towards the person who wronged him for 3 volumes of the manga. You actually get a little bit of it instead of just 25 minutes of him being, the Black Swordsman. You don't really know what's going on. It's just, it's like I said, I would say the anime and the manga are, even though they're the same story, they're very different. That's why I would give different synopsis for them.
But let's be honest. Let's play the puppet master for a minute. If you had the manga before an anime was created, would you have just made the anime from exactly the same point as the manga? Or would you look at it? Did they look at it and think, you know what? If we put it from the beginning like the manga, it just won't do well as a TV show. So what we have to do is show you the story in a more chronological way, so it kind of eases you into the story.
Yeah, I think so. And when you asked me to explain why I thought they told the story in the anime the way they did, I was kind of touching on that. Is it goes from, I wouldn't say lighthearted. It's still pretty brutal, but it goes from much more lighthearted to really fucking dark. So I could understand from that perspective, that might be why they wanted to do it that way in the anime instead of following exactly like the manga.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, I think the way they ended the anime, they were expecting to continue on the series, and they only got that one season, because looking at it from that way, like you said, it makes sense to go from him in the beginning of his life, following his life as a mercenary, to becoming the Black Swordsman instead of jumping around a little bit.
Mm. You're still reading the manga to this day, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about it? The progression of the story overall now?
I have mixed feelings, even though it's still one of my favorites. So I'll just come out and say it. The manga is actually a Hall of Fame for me, too. It's one of my top 5 stories of all time. But that comes, like I said, with some baggage. The first thing I got to say is what attracted me to continue reading the story is, it's a story about one man facing a godlike figure, and there are a lot of stories that try to do that, but BERSERK is different. They really do it differently than other series. Much more dark, much more gravity to everything that's happening, a lot more emotion, just everything, So what has been happening like the last year and a half or something is it's becoming less of just one man facing the godlike figure, and Guts is like beginning to create his own group. He's getting equalizers to face this godlike figure on a more equal playing field and stuff like that. It's kind of moving away from what attracted me to the story, which is, admittedly very dark and brutal and hopeless. But maybe that struggle against hopelessness is what really attracted me to it, because in the end, for a long time, everything Guts did was on his own power as a human. But now, not so much,
Okay, so being a long-time reader of the manga and where the story's going, do you feel like it's obviously we can only speculate, but do you feel like the manga's coming to an end with the way the story's going?
Well, I have to address that a bit more in detail too, because I feel several times actually the story could have concluded. There's a few times where Guts actually got within reach of his mortal enemy, but he failed to actually kill him. And that's happened. I can't really put a time on it, but it's happened like three times. So you could have ended the story all three of those times, but it's continued on. And I think in particular one of those confrontations where they're at the grave site of their band, of all their past soldiers. It's like a memorial. He runs into his mortal enemy, and that would have been a great place to end the story instead of continuing on and becoming something that it hadn't, it wasn't for a long time, which was, just one man facing one god. That's really when everything began to slowly change for Guts and the story itself, where he started creating his own group and getting things that would help him face his mortal enemy on a more level playing field.
Well, let me ask you outright. Do you feel like they're milking the series then?
Oh, that's a tough call, because it's still, even though it's changing, I think it's okay. But preferably, I would say, in my opinion, I would say it's kind of being milked. But to further add to that, I think along with the movie projects as a signal, I just think the series is going to conclude soon. And when I say soon, I mean within a couple years, which sounds like a long time, but it's an irregular release. So
it sounds like a long time.
Yeah.
The anime, I'm going to assume, because the anime was released in 1997, I assume the manga was released before that. I should have the date here, but I don't. Let's just, even if it was 1995, that's nearly 20 years.
Yeah, it's a very long time, and it's past due. I feel it's past due to end, but if it continues on a bit longer, they'd have to do some real major fuck-ups to, sour the story, because a bad ending can, ruin a story. I'm totally of that mind. But, I would foresee, like, within 5-6 volumes that the story's going to conclude.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've pretty much covered a lot of basically the most of the manga, because now we're going to talk about some of the newer releases of Berserk. Some of the new attention this franchise is getting, and that's mainly in the form of new animated movie features that is being created. Here's the deal, people. In 2010, there was an announcement in one of the manga chapters that a new anime project was going to start, and their plan, like first they said what they're going to do is they're going to make 3 feature films that cover the Golden Age arc, or in other words, what the anime covered, in 3 feature movies. And these movies are going to be done with new graphics, with CGI, animation, graphics, whatever. Just so you know, people, if you listen to this in the future or whatever, we're recording this in 2012. And at this point in time, the first movie has been released. The second movie is about to be released. And the third one, I think, is going to be released at the end of the year. Now, me and you have not seen the first movie, right?
Correct.
But we've seen a lot of clips. And even more recently, yesterday to be exact, we saw the trailer for the new second movie. I'm going to ask you, old boy, what do you think of what you saw? And, in general, what do you think of this whole thing, this whole remake of the Golden Age arc of Berserk?
Okay, I'm gonna touch on the remake portion before I talk about what I thought about what I saw. Just the idea of them redoing it, because besides just redoing the anime series, weren't they saying something about how they're actually going to continue the series on, but they're going to animate it now?
No, actually, this is what I think. We might have to double check this. What I read was they are going to do movies of the whole canon, all of it. They're not going to do any more TV series. They're going to do these first 3 movies of the old arc. Then they're just going to do feature movies of all the manga arcs as well.
Okay.
They're not going to do TV series.
Well, if you're correct about that, I would think that's the way to go if they're going to do this. It's not a television series. It's a straight to DVD or movie sort of deal. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not meant for the television of today. It's too dark and brutal.
Mm.
But when I heard about this, then recently when we were talking about it, even the last day actually, it comes to mind, why is there a need to do this? Why do this? And on one hand, like you mentioned, you're going to start bringing more of an audience to this great story that's existed for a long time that, they didn't know about. But on the other hand, is it really necessary? I don't think it's that necessary. I just think, re-release the DVDs or something. Especially after seeing the trailers. I'm going to talk about what I saw now.
Wait. Let me just stop you there and let's say the DVDs have already been re-released and remastered as well. So I'm not trying to say, oh boy, they've already got what you've asked for. I'm just saying that on my side of things, I'm perplexed as well because I'm like, you continue. Sorry to cut you, and then you finish what you're saying.
It's okay. I knew about that too. My point being is that's all I should have taken, but maybe it didn't draw in as much of an audience as they were hoping for out of people who've never heard of Berserk or seen it or experienced it, and they're just hoping that the movies reach out to a much bigger crowd because, honestly, there aren't that many people I don't think would enjoy at least the anime of Berserk. The ending is kind of off-putting, but there's still a lot to be enjoyed there, and I don't think most people will be that turned off by it, but
I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, I can only think of one anime that is. This is people are gonna crucify me for saying this. Only one anime I can think that is something like Berserk, just so minusculely something like Berserk, and that's an anime called Record of Lodoss War. And it is much more campy, much more lighthearted. It's not the storyline's not even as close. It's much more fairy tale like. You guys already know that.
The voice acting is terrible in the dub.
Yeah, have you seen Record of Lodoss War?
I saw 2 episodes. I couldn't keep watching it because the voice acting.
Yeah, well, you get one. It's just the setting seems very similar, but it's just feels more like a fairy tale kind of situation. Anyway, when I saw the trailer for this first movie, right? It just didn't bring anything new to the table. Maybe in the arc I don't even like, the arc, the Black Swordsman's arc, everything after the anime arc.
Yeah.
Because that's so fantastical, I would think seeing that with new graphics is better. But the first arc is very much just simplistic battles, just normal battles, normal wartime battles. All right, so. I mean, it looks like, I don't want to make this comparison because it's not really accurate, but you've seen God of War, okay?
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's not the same, but if you've seen that, I mean, I love Berserk for the story. I think most people love Berserk for the story. The action is really cool because it's gory, but to me, once I've seen it, I've seen it. And once I saw this trailer, I didn't feel enticed at all. I didn't, wow, I got to see that. Wow. Because one of the best parts of the anime, one of the most braggadocious parts about the anime is, I think Guts kills 1,000 soldiers. Is it 1,000 or 100?
It's like 100.
100 soldiers at once. And just seeing that in the old anime is cool. Now, seeing the new trailer and seeing Guts turn around in 360 degrees at the Matrix, it didn't blow me away.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, there was just a bit of interference there. I was just saying that looking at this animation, the story hasn't changed. But then I'm going to go back to what you said, and Berserk is a great story, and if you need to push these movies out to get more and a new fan base, I'm definitely all for it. But like I said to you earlier, old boy, when you condense the story into movie form, I feel like you kind of lose one of the better things about Berserk, because I like the length of the story in this 26 episode run and it being a long manga. When you condense it into movies, I feel like it's just another action war anime movie. And I mean, it's a good story, but I don't know. I just feel like it might lose a lot of its essence in a shorter form. I might be completely wrong, but that's how I feel. And I just haven't been impressed with these trailers, at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me neither. Actually, I didn't touch on this in the manga, but one of the things that's really attractive of the series to me is superbly drawn action scenes, It's,
Okay.
to me, unrivaled. And I would say there isn't really...
Really? I never asked you about the art style in the manga, actually, yeah.
The art style in the manga is possibly the best I've ever seen in manga, but that's kind of subjective. If you're an artist, and I say, the use of lines, particularly heavy lines or cross-stitching, you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Black ink tones, darkness, they cover all that stuff very well. That's part of, visually, that's very attractive to me that they do it so well in that series. But not just that. The action, the fight, the sword fighting, all that stuff is very well drawn also. It's a art style I would hope starts becoming more popular, because the Berserk art style is a lot of action can happen with a still picture. Like, you don't have to see all this blurry shit going on or whatever. A lot of it is shown through like a still picture. That's the way they do a lot of their action. And it's kind of a shame that, more series don't try to do the artwork like that. But, it takes a unique kind of talent, obviously, if so few do action that way. So, I'm sorry I kind of went off on a tangent, but when you're talking about the artwork of the movies we saw in the trailers, I had to bring that up because I kind of forgot.
No. I don't feel like you were on the tangent at all. I was interested, and I can't say I'm the greatest judge of animation myself, especially with manga. I thought the animation for the manga was really good as well. And the only other manga that I've seen great animation from was Gantz.
Gantz is up there. I would say Basilisk is really good too with the action animation, both in the anime and in the manga.
Well, I mean, yeah, Gantz. I think I've been spoiled because I've seen I've seen some of the best, apparently some of the best animated mangas. So, I had no complaints with that. But then again, who am I to judge? Like I just said. So, in conclusion, this is my thoughts on these new movies. It's definitely good for the franchise. I'm happy they're doing it, and I mean, for them to back it, it's a testament to how successful Berserk is, because people, if you haven't seen Berserk, you need to see it, because I think me and Old Boy have gone out of our way not to spoil it for you. Yeah, it is a fucking great story, and I don't like the way the manga went from where the anime stops, but that's subjective to my own taste. To be honest with you, and the anime is still phenomenal. It's in a lot of people's top 10. And actually, sorry, Old Boy, I should have brought this up. I have a problem with the anime Berserk.
You have a problem with the anime?
Yeah. What I like to call is the curse of Berserk.
Oh, yeah.
I've told you about this already, haven't I?
Yeah, but I'll let you tell them. But before that, actually, sorry to interrupt you. I do want to kind of touch more on...
Damn right, sorry. Yeah, go on.
I do want to kind of touch up more on the artwork and everything, because, like, when you look at the manga and you compare it to the hand-drawn anime, I can understand, yeah, okay, sure, let's draw that. But then when I looked at those trailers, because I haven't seen the movie like you, but seeing the trailers, their CGI, it makes me feel like I'm watching somebody play, like, one of those Legend of Zelda games, you know what I mean, like, with the cell shading. It's just, I don't feel it looked very well. I haven't seen the movie, but from what I've seen, it didn't look so good. I would, if I was going to recommend somebody check out Berserk and they had to watch it, not read it, I would say watch the old anime, because I'm not very impressed with the way the trailers looked for the movies.
Yeah. Well, me and you are both on the same side then, because and to be honest with you, I've spoken to a couple of people, and there's not a lot of hype for the movie. There's a lot of advertisement for the movie, but I mean, the story. I don't want to use the word basic, but the story is kind of. It's not a very complicated story, and I don't think it needs CGI. I think that's the issue I'm having. It's the CGI. It's not the actual new animation. If it was just reanimated, like 100 times Hunter or like Guyver or a lot of anime that's getting reanimated nowadays, fine. But CGI, it can make things corny. When you put CGI in, you can make things worse. And I think Berserk is in danger of that happening. So, but who knows, man? I could be wrong. But what I've seen and what you've seen, we both agree, isn't very impressive.
Yeah, it's not very good. It's like, seriously, it feels like I'm watching somebody play a video game. That's what the artwork looks like.
So anyway, can I go back to this Curse of Berserk now?
Yeah, you can. I'm sorry about that. I didn't want us to record without me saying that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I forgive you. You're forgiven, son. Catface. Yeah. So anyway, here's the Curse of Berserk, people. It's very simple and very, very stupid, okay? I have a lot of friends that don't watch anime. Yeah, a lot. The majority of my friends do not really like anime. They think it's just cartoony and silly, and they see the tropes of some of the worst anime that Americans have licensed, and what can I say? In some ways, I can't blame them. Anyway, every single person that I've given Berserk to, they think it's the best anime that's ever been made and that's ever gonna be made. Like, some of my closest friends refuse to watch anime because the first thing they'll say to me is it better than Berserk? Like, no, it's different. No, I don't want to watch it. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? I mean, just check this out. I mean, another anime that's another great anime is like Basilisk, like Obo's talking about. Like, watch Basilisk. Is it like Berserk? What's it about? Is it about war? Like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Yeah. Then, if I do get someone to watch it, it was alright, but it wasn't no Berserk. Are you fucking kidding me? So, people, I know this is just a weird thing I'm bringing up, but like, Berserk is a really high caliber anime. It's really great, and some of my idiot friends, and I might as well state this, they are men. Most of the guys I'm talking about are guys, so they see it. I think their testosterone goes up. Yeah, Sparta, ah! And they just love it, and then there's no anime better than this. Ah! I mean, another fighting anime, or really butch anime, something like Grappler Baki. And yeah, something like that, muscle power. I don't know, man. But, people are probably thinking, oh, your friend's just shallow. Or maybe you're right. But a lot of people, as soon as they see Berserk, it's a great anime. And you know what? It's in my Hall of Fame anime. But I'm not one to, kind of put anything on a pedestal. I always want something to be better. I'm always looking for good anime. And the Curse of Berserk, to many people I know, is I give someone Berserk, they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they won't want to watch any other anime unless it's like Berserk or better than Berserk. Again, opinion, subjective, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and all that jazz, so whatever, but it's just a problem I've had with Berserk. Not necessarily the worst problem, but it doesn't even get them into anime. You would think a good title would get someone into other titles, but not this one. So, that's the Curse of Berserk.
I never had that problem.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people listening are just thinking, what the hell? But yeah, I just thought I'd share my painful experience.
That's all right. If your friends are willing to read, which they probably aren't, but it's like I said.
Hey, that's a horrible assumption. Even though you're correct.
I'm not saying that because I think they're stupid or anything. It's just most people who watch anime don't really like to read manga and vice versa. But if they are, some similar titles like Vinland Saga is an epic wartime story. Vagabond is during the Warring States period of feudal Japan, I think. Was it? No. It's around that time, but it's not when it's actually happening. But it's another, is very macho.
Do you actually, now since you're bringing up related titles, there was an anime that was released a couple years after, not a couple, like maybe 10 years after Berserk, that everyone was saying, it's the new Berserk. It's the female Berserk. Do you know what anime I'm going to talk about?
No.
Claymore. Have you read Claymore? Or seen Claymore?
Yeah, I read Claymore, but it's nothing like Berserk.
I know some people have compared. When it came out, the anime came out, they saw the setting and they saw the fighting, and I don't know why. A lot of people compared it to Berserk.
They compared it to Berserk because they use big swords. That's the same thing that happened with Final Fantasy VII. People kept trying to say, this is based off of Berserk because, you have Sephiroth, who's like Griffith, and then you have Cloud, who has the big sword. It's like, dude, that's not really anything like it at all. Because if you actually... I'm sure everybody listening knows the story of Final Fantasy VII. It's actually nothing like Berserk. There's just,
of course.
It's just those two similarities. There's the protagonist has a big sword, and then the enemy, the mortal enemy has a god.
A slimmer one.
A slimmer one, but is a godlike figure. That's it. The story is completely different.
Yeah. All right, man. So, believe it or not, people, we're coming to the end of this special because, we don't want to drag on and talk about all these other things. But there is one other franchise related to Berserk that I do want to bring up. And that is, there were 2 video games based on Berserk. And
do you play those?
I played one of them. I played the Dreamcast one, which is the first one, which is called The Sword of Berserk, Guts' Rage.
Okay, hold on a second. Are you like standing in a red spandex bottom with a red cape or something? Like, you're putting off some really big Spartan vibes here.
Just emphasizing the energy and the masculinity that Guts has with his sword and his powers and
his rage.
No, I don't. You should get those disgusting thoughts out of your head. No, I'm not in the cape. Anyway, the game, you guys, you know what? I'm going to put a link in the description to the Angry Video Games Nerd breakdown of this game because this game is apparently one of the best and one of the worst games ever made. And let me elaborate on what I mean by that.
That sounds very confusing.
Yeah, when it was released, people said it was one of the best games ever made because it was actually one of the most violent, and it was one of the first action games that actually had a really good 3D fighting, gameplay. But the reason why it's one of the worst is because it has some seriously bad bugs. That 2 in particular is the camera. The camera is always situated behind Guts, and his cape is always flowing.
Okay.
So when you're fighting, you're looking over the character's shoulder. And the most ridiculous glitch, which is somewhat realistic, is Guts' sword. It's so big, he can't actually swing it to hit people. Imagine that, you're trying to fight someone against a wall, but you can't swing the sword because the corridor's too narrow. That's so, the game, in some instances, you can't even swing your sword because you can't swing the sword through the wall. And maybe it's realistic, but in terms of playing a computer game, it's just not playable,
That's a bummer.
Yeah, and apparently he can do punches and kicks, but they're completely useless. And yeah, so I'm going to put a link to the Angry Video Game Nerd, or there's also the Happy Video Game Nerd. They both did reviews for the game, and they're both funny. They both show you the pros and the cons of the game, but apparently the game was like a trendsetter. It was the first game before that, what's that assassin game that came out on PlayStation that everybody loved?
Well, Assassin's Creed? Or Tenchu?
Is it Tenchu?
Tenchu.
Tenchu? Yeah, Tenchu, yeah. It had a lot of that element in there. So apparently, but I only played it briefly. So, yeah, so anyway, the second game, and actually the first, just to some more reference, the first game was based off the manga volumes 22 and 23, so that was deep into the Black Swordsman arc, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty far in.
Yeah, so, again, and it actually was released before the anime was released in the US, so people were playing the game before they even watched the anime, so they had no idea what the hell Guts was or what it was about and whatever. So, and apparently the voice acting was atrocious. Yeah, there was a bad dub, so yeah. Anyway, moving on to the second and last game that never got released in the US. It was called Berserk Millennium Falcon Hen Semina Senki no Sho. Might have pronounced that completely wrong.
It's okay.
It's based on volumes 23 to 27 of the manga and was released in 2004 for the PlayStation 2. And apparently, this game fixed so much of the bugs in the first one, and it was so good, they decided not to release it in the US.
Sons of bitches!
That's how good it was. And if you go on YouTube, you can see some clips, and the game looks actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it looked really neat, man. When I was seeing all that stuff, I was like, well, if they had that released in the US, I would probably play that all the time.
Yeah, it looked like a really good game, and it never got released, and only God knows why.
Those crafty Japanese.
The God of War knows why. Blech. Oh yeah, and another thing about the first Guts game, apparently halfway through the game, there's a boss that's impossible to beat.
You serious?
Yeah, there's a boss that you literally, unless you get a game genie or a cheat code, you can't win. They just program the boss too well. It's just ridiculous. So a lot of people can't even get halfway through the first game. So the first game has a ridiculous amount of flaws, but the action is great. It's very gory, and the voice acting, there's a lot of, actually I think it was one of the first games that had a lot of voice acting, because you know those old consoles never had a lot of voice acting in it.
No, they didn't. Even that was on Dreamcast. Even Dreamcast didn't really.
No, it didn't. No. So yeah. Oh boy, I think we've done our Berserk special. You know.
Well, that'll wrap it up, I believe.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to go on too long. I know usually a podcast can be 2 hours, 3 hours even, but once you said what you have to say, you have to kind of just leave it at that, you know?
Yeah, you really do. It's like I said, the anime and the manga, way different. If you have to watch it, I really don't know about these movies that are coming out, especially since I can't get any subtitled versions of it. So I would suggest watch the old anime. I mean, it's been remastered. It looks great. Trust me.
Looks great. The dub is good. You want to say? I remember when Berserk was coming out, I actually bought her the limited edition box set. I know this is the fanboy in me coming out now. If you look on, you'll never find this. It's actually called a Box of War, and each DVD is in blood red box, and the art box is fucking beautiful. There's a nice picture of Guts and so. I don't want to say.
You should upload that to the Spill group.
I can't find a picture of the inside of the box, but I'll try to get a picture up there. But
do you
to be honest,
still have the box?
I don't. Nuance has it.
Oh well, hook up with her sometime and just take pictures or something.
Yeah, I'll try, but I can't promise anything. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all I have to say about Berserk. It's a great series. It's very dark though. It's even pretty depressing sometimes overall, particularly the manga. So if you like the more lighthearted stuff, probably stay away from that. If you're tired of, everything being the lighthearted stuff, always doing stuff the same way, then it is different. I try to find those different things for you people.
This is a bit all the way to the right. I mean, I'm so tired of seeing this school days anime, lovey-dovey shit. I want something real. I want something hardcore.
Wait, what? School Days? I thought you guys hated that shit.
No, I didn't mean School Days as in the title. Okay. School Days as in the genre of anime. But I'm just saying, if someone says, I want something hardcore and all that, be careful what you wish for. Because Berserk is really extreme. But it's a really great anime, though.
Yeah, it really is. It's something different. It's very extreme, like you said. I did want to touch on a couple of things you guys mentioned, though, in the other, the last podcast.
Why do you want to touch on it? Why are you going to be so nasty for?
Okay, I'll lick on it. How's that? With my abrasive sandpaper tongue.
I'll do that.
I'll tongue fuck your mic like Corey did.
No, you won't.
Yeah, well, that's really disgusting.